Welcome back to The Full View. Great to have you with us. The National Prosecuting Authority has declined to prosecute Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana for sexual assault. He was accused of sexually assaulting a masseuse at the Kruger National Park whilst on vacation in early August. The NPA said the complainant refused to proceed with the case. Godongwana earlier denied the claim. While advocacy organisation Wise Collective says this decision will undermine the fight against GBV. To discuss, we're joined by Wise4Africa Director Onica Makwakwa. Ms. Makwakwa, thank you for being with us. Why are you against this decision by the National Prosecuting Authority?
Thank you so much for having me. So first, let me start by saying that this decision, however, although we are not agreeing with it, it also does not surprise us. We have a history of continuing to burden victims with being able to put together our prosecutions. And I think that it's time we develop our systems in such a way that police should be able to conduct thorough investigation, working with NPA, and be able to proceed with such cases without necessarily needing the victim. In this particular instance, this happened at a venue that potentially would also have footage, but there's also an individual who is the spouse of the minister who has said that she had been in the room the whole time. Put her on the stand, perhaps, and have her confirm that. But I think that abandoning the cases simply because we want the whole case to rest on the shoulders of someone who's already been victimized is actually problematic and is part of the reason also more women are not willing to report these cases because of the risk of secondary re-victimization. They must really leave the crime after they've spent time, talking with the police and giving them the evidence and allowing them the space to do the investigation.
I understand what you're saying, but for the National Prosecuting Authority, surely it has to look at whether the case is winnable in court. Otherwise, it's a waste of everybody's time, including the alleged victim. And these are often private situations where two people are alone in the room. Maybe not this time. We have the minister's wife saying she was there. But it's he said, she said. Surely in those situations, the person involved is pivotal. The person making the claims is pivotal to a winnable case.
Well, I mean, I disagree slightly. I think that the NPA has to look at winnable cases, but we can't continue to approach GBV cases in such a way that the winnability of those cases rests solely and completely upon victims. As we've said, in this particular case, we have someone else who says they were in the room, but that statement was not necessarily made under oath, right? So we need to be able to make sure that we conduct the kind of thorough investigations, whether there are cameras that can actually also collaborate that information so that the case is not necessarily built just by the victim, especially given the fact that we are still a country that tends to not believe women. We are still a country that re-victimizes victims when they come out and speak out against our favorite people. And you'll see that in just how we've already spoken about this particular victim as, it's a political hit and all of. So we've already created a culture that discredits victims and that does not encourage anyone to come forth with these kinds of cases. So we need to strengthen our investigative units. We need to strengthen our NPA to be able to go after these cases, regardless of whether the victim themselves can show up or not. You build the evidence, there's physical evidence in some cases, and in other cases, there's other people who can collaborate what is being said.
The National Prosecuting Authority says it remains steadfast in vigorously prosecuting sexual offence cases and looking at gender-based violence. Do you believe that? Do you believe the NPA at least has this high on its agenda?
I will say that it has improved, but when you look at the number of cases that actually do get prosecuted, it doesn't give us a lot of hope, right? But also when you look at the number of times that activists and civil society in particular has had to rally up to make sure and push for these cases to be heard and push for NPA, for example, to oppose bail in some cases. It has taken more than just the NPA on its own. So I think it's really great that we are beginning to see change, but that change is coming with consistent, angst coming from civil society and activists to make sure that we continue to have NPA give high attention to these cases and make sure that, they really go after the perpetrators or the alleged perpetrators, as they would like to call them. But I think it's just improving slowly. However, when we look at the stats in terms of how many cases are reported, that's already very low, but also how many of those cases actually get prosecuted. We've seen the NPA also reverse itself in some cases, right, where they've decided not to prosecute, and then when there's noise that's made, they've then gone back to review the case so that we can understand how they came to that conclusion. So there's still a challenge. I think we can definitely do better.
All right, thank you very much. That was Wise4Africa Director Onica Makwakwa.